Hello everyone, my name is Bhavesh Desai, and I work for a company called Adaptive Financial Consulting. And we specialize in building real-time technology for the financial services sector. And a large part of that is building UIs. Now, building UIs for finance is interesting, and it's enjoyable, but it's also challenging and sometimes very painful. And to explain why, let's take a look at trading. So when you're building a trading app, you are normally working with a complex product domain. Lots of different assets, FX, equities, commodities, etc. All the derivatives, forward swaps, options. And we trade them in different ways and have to support lots of different workflows. So RFQ, IOI, and executable streaming prices. We have some quite advanced components, things like blotters, tickets, charting, pricing tiles. I, for one, have built numerous pricing tiles in just about every color you could imagine in multiple frameworks. I'm sure people here have done the same. Our applications are time sensitive. They're mission critical, so they always have to be real time. Our applications have multiple teams, and they're normally globally distributed, contributing to the same code base. And then we're always trying to build this stuff to really tight timelines. So it's really important that you get your architecture right from the beginning when you're building a financial UI. And today I'm going to talk about two main themes that we strongly believe in. So the first one is well-trodden ground here, which is desktop ecosystems. Kim covered quite a bit of this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So here's an example of how we see many applications being built. Numerous teams contribute to a large, single-page browser application. Now, this works for your MVP, but eventually things start to slow down. It turns out that it's easy for teams to break each other's features due to the shared browser environment. Everything needs to be built with the same libraries and frameworks. APIs between the different components is sometimes unclear. And in 2 years, you're probably going to need to refresh the technology stack anyway. So you're either going to be stuck where you are or have to do a rewrite. And the focus here is more on building this application rather than enabling workflows. Now, sometimes this is the only viable option to you, and it can be done, but you do need a lot of governance. So we now have alternatives. So instead of building a large monolithic app like the one I just mentioned, we can make a series of smaller applications housed in open fin containers that serve as part of a greater ecosystem. These applications then communicate with each other over an interop bus and well-defined APIs and messaging. And then depending on your needs, you can build or buy window management and workspace persistence on top of it. Now, this does take some engineering and expertise to build, but once you've got your interop framework in place, it's going to last longer than the JavaScript framework of today. And once you have it in place, there's a number of benefits. Teams can work independently of each other and release their code separately. They're free to use a technology stack that suits them, and it's much harder to break each other. And as Kim just mentioned, one of the biggest advantages to doing things like this is you can start to migrate your existing WPF or legacy applications can partake in this ecosystem, and you finally have that migration path you want to upgrade to HTML5. So then the second architectural point I want to make about building these UIs is that you really need to get on top of your real-time data. So a lot of screens and components that we build in finance involve collections of data that update in real time. So for example, a blotter. So to build a blotter, we have to interleave a historical data source, that's the trades we have done, with a real-time one, so new trades or updates to the trades we have. We need to implement things like virtual scrolling, so we only fetch and subscribe to the data that we actually need. We have to be careful not to miss updates. We have to ensure we process all the updates in order. And we have to make sure that this fetching and subscribing is fast and the user should hardly notice it. And we have to be careful not to spam the client with too many updates. So we have to think about things like batching and sampling. So to actually get this right, you have to do it throughout your infrastructure, both on the client and the server. And we do this via something called live queries. So in this architecture, the client sends queries to the server over a duplex WebSocket connection. The server will then create a materialized view of what the client is actually looking at. And then it manages updates to the client via the same WebSocket gateway. And the nice thing here is that you don't really have to worry about some of the issues I just mentioned because they're abstracted away from you. It also lets you configure things like how many updates you should send the client or what happens when the data source that you're looking at actually moves. And the great thing is that once you have this sort of infrastructure in place, you can simply rinse and repeat it across all of your other components. So not just blotters, price history, orders, notification, RFQs. And we've done this so many times that we've pre-built a lot of this stuff and we offer it as IP to our clients. And this is called our Hydra effort. And if you want to know a little bit more about this, please come and speak to us over at our booth or talk to one of my colleagues. Or you can visit our website where you can see examples of how we build applications. We have professional-grade applications there, open source for you to look at. And that's it from me. So thank you, guys.